Land documentation, a cornerstone of effective land governance, supporting tenure security, economic development, and sustainable land use and planning. It involves recording and maintaining information about land ownership, use, and transactions through various methods, including cadastral surveys, land registration, and Land Information System (LIS). Despite its importance, land documentation faces challenges such as informality, inaccurate records, technological barriers, and political and social issues. In Nigeria, land registration and documentation are plagued with a mere 3% of land formally registered and up to 90% of rural land held under customary tenure, lacking formal documentation. Despite efforts to improve land administration in urban areas like Lagos, the land remains complex and costly, with land disputes accounting for up to 80% of civil cases and women facing significant barriers to land ownership, and only 10% having secure land rights. Also, informal settlements are common, with over 60% of Lagos population living without secure tenure. However, recent technological advancements offer promising solutions to these challenges. Some of the innovations include geospatial technology, blockchain, mobile and open source tools, which are currently used for enhancing the accuracy, efficiency, accessibility of land documentation. These innovations can improve the effectiveness of inclusivity of land documentation system, supporting equitable land governance. Speaking on access to land ownership, Femi Ayodele on Early Exchange shared more thoughts on this important aspect of land documentation.
As a result of that, the proper documentation and processing that should come into this kind of transaction is not usually done. Because we're in a global world where things have been standardized, and it's important that when you have this kind of transaction that has to do with land, the proper thing has to be done. And so it's important for people to have this understanding, which is why this conversation is crucial. Now, the collaboration between the World Bank and the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development is to ensure that they improve the process, whereby from 10% to 50% when it comes to land documentation and formalization. There is also this capital as well, which the World Bank will be providing. That's about $300 billion. But the concern on the part of World Bank is this capital cannot be accessed until you enforce the issue of formalization and the right documentation for this land ownership. World Bank doesn't want to get involved in things that are not being well organized, which is why it's important to formalize the process of documentation and tackling. And this is why this knowledge is important as far as Nigeria is concerned. The law, according to the Land Use Act, has vested the ownership of lands in the government. But whether you acquire it from the government, formally or informally, it's important that you have all this document, because the time will come where some issues will arise, whether legal issues as regards ownership. Something can change. Even you can have in law of contract, there's what we call consent. We can have consent now, and tomorrow I might decide to change my mind. But when you have a document written black and white to back up the transaction on the agreement, it's a way to make your case valid if any legal issue arises. So that's why in business or in any transaction, don't assume because the person is your father or you're inheriting the land from a particular family, you have
that's
land. But it goes beyond that. The most important is your CFO, which is a certificate of occupancy, to show that you're the right owner. It has in legal time, that's what you call weight. It's more weightier than when you just leave your documentation to just having deed of agreements or just having receipts. So it's important for people to know these documents and apply for them. Landowner, ensure that you get your documentation from the right source, because anything can arise in the future. You can have a legal battle. In fact, anything can. One of the reasons why it's important is, for instance, if you're acquiring a land from a residential area or a supposed residential area, and the place has been converted to an industrial area, issues can arise at that, because in urban planning, there are areas that are designated for industries, areas designated as residential. But you discover even religious houses are springing up in areas that are supposed to be residential areas. That's part of the abuse we're talking about. So it's for you to be ensured that you have the right ownership, and then if anything arises, you can be covered by the law.
Speaking further on the program, Victor Jibunoh, a legal practitioner, shed more light on verification of land, titles, and the importance.
For getting verifying uh, a land before you purchase, whether you are a purchaser or if you are the owner of the land, verification of land in Lagos, it's not usually an easy process. It's not usually an easy process. It takes a lot of process. In fact, the process is very cumbersome and it takes a lot of time before you actually now get uh, the result of your land verification. Electronic search, even you don't even need to visit the Ministry of Lands physically. You can do your search by yourself online by just logging into the search portal, and you can just do your search within seconds. You get whatever information you are searching for, verification that you are doing. But when it comes to the issue of getting the titles and some other documentation with respect to land, that is where there is usually this bottlenecks. It can take as long as 1 year for you to get the C of O, for you to get a governor's consent, which is to me not encouraging. If you want to sell your land for the purpose of getting huge commercial benefits, and you require a C of O to do that. If you need to get cashing on, you need to cash in money on very urgent for a very urgent purpose, and you need to sell your land with a C of O. You can imagine if your land doesn't have a C of O and you want to get that C of O, you'll be looking at spending over a year plus before you can eventually get that C of O to sell that land. So these are issues that needs to be addressed by the Ministry of Lands, states, Lagos State as it concerns us in our practice. If you have been granted right of occupancy on a particular land, you should know that that right is valid for 99 years. So at the expiration of 99 years, it's either you apply for an extension of that 99 years, or the government comes and pick the land up. So because the land belongs to the state government, in reality, so that is the reason why it is usually advised, for you to be able to have some legal rights with respect to lands, you have to perfect your title. And when you are perfecting your title, like the other time when I was interviewed in your station, I talked about various kinds of titles that can give you legal rights. The certificate of occupancy is the most important. Then you have the governor's consent. For example, the certificate of occupancy, once you are issued certificate of occupancy, it means that you have legal rights to that land for 99 years.
Leveraging technological advancements and addressing challenges such as comprehensive reforms, which include policy and legislation, corruption, transparency, capacity building, public awareness, and public-private partnership. Land documentation can play a vital role in securing land rights, promoting economic growth, and protecting the environment. Praise Matthias for Sook News.